Hey, how's it going, New Life? Thank you so much for tuning into our TRAC reading. So excited to dive in with you guys. Today is chapter 15 of the book of Genesis. And here we see God making a covenant with Abram. Now, this may seem a little foreign to us because we're used to making promises or signing a legal contract or saying vows in front of other people in order to show that we are making a promise. But in the Middle Near East, near this time, this was a typical way of making a covenant. They wouldn't just say something, they would act out their covenant. And here we see Abram doing a traditional covenant where they would slay an animal, cut its body in half, and both parties would walk between the animals, basically saying, if I don't keep up my end of the covenant, may I be like these animals, may I be slain and my body cut. And Abram's asking God, because God just made Abram this promise saying, I'm going to make you into a nation. I'm going to bless them and use them to bring about salvation in the world. And in verse 8, Abram goes, God, how can I know that you'll keep your promise to me? Does that sound like a familiar question that we ask ourselves? Say, God, how can I know, just looking at my circumstances, that you are going to bring about the promise you've made to me? And God gets involved in the covenant. Let's just think about what we've seen so far in Genesis. God is all-powerful. He is holy, autonomous, needs nothing. He's lived in eternity before the beginning. He decided to make our universe because of his overflowing love for us. And even when we were broken and we failed to be who he made us to be, he was merciful, clothed us, he preserved Noah in the flood. But here we see him, his glory comes down. In verse 10, or verse 11, it talks about this flaming pot and this burning torch. The same word for flame and the same word for smoke is used in Exodus to talk about this pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. So this is God's glory walking between these animals. And so he says, Abram, I am all powerful. I am trustworthy. May I be cut off. The God of the universe be cut off if I don't keep my promise. This is a huge promise. And we can actually see God's faithfulness in the covenant we now live in with Jesus Christ, because he uses Abram's family to bring salvation to the world. And so we see God answering Abram's question, but maybe your question isn't, God, how do I know you're faithful? Maybe you ask yourself, God, how can I trust that you'll keep your covenant despite my lack of faithfulness? And that's when we look to Jesus. See, he kept both ends of the covenant. When we look here, it's not like God walks to the animals and says, all right, Abram, now your turn. God walks in alone, saying, Abram, I'll take both ends of the covenant. If you fail or if I fail, this is going to go wrong. And we see Jesus, he was slain for us. His body was cut for us. He took the punishment we deserve for failing to keep the covenant, and he also kept God's end of the covenant for us. So guys, if you are ever looking at your life and you're wondering, God, how can I know that you're faithful? I see all this craziness happening. Look to Jesus, who is Emmanuel, God come down for us, God with us. And if you're ever wondering, God, how can I trust that despite my lack of faithfulness, you'll be there for me? Guys, look to Jesus, who is our advocate, the author and perfecter of our faith. So as we continue reading through Genesis and we start to unpack this amazing God who is always for us, I pray that your eyes would be open and you would put faith in this God who is 100% trustworthy and it keeps both ends of the covenant for us. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this TRAC reading with Genesis. I pray that you guys would be blessed. I'm praying for you guys. Love you so much.